Adam, before commercial break, you made a claim and I challenged you on it. Are these activists in the school boards, do they actually hate children as you claimed? You wanted to unpack that for me. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so these are academics. They want to steal the innocence of children. They promote things that are hot button left-wing issues that you primarily see on Netflix that should be closely supervised by parents. And these schools have these children for 6 hours a day plus maybe upwards of 10 hours a day away from the parents, and they're teaching them all sorts of horrific things. And parents are getting mad as a result of it, and they should be mad.
So is the point that you're making is that they're activist teachers essentially? Because not all teachers are the same, obviously, but there's a host of activist teachers, Adam?
Yeah, so the teaching profession in the United States, especially in the public schools, are a radically left-wing industry, but especially administration. Administration over the last 20 years has gone into professionalization by these major universities, and they're producing people who use these platforms for all sorts of postmodern critical race type of theories that they're going to be pushing onto our youth.
Yes, and obviously this is something we have to be careful of in Canada because we have both those ideologies being taught rampantly in our schools. I want to pivot now to the border crisis. And many in Canada don't really have a handle on what is happening at your southern border. We know that there's an issue. We know that there are migrants flooding in. We don't know from where or and why. And maybe you don't either. But please give us some insight. Pedro, you can start this off. What's going on at your southern border and what's the problem?
So the Biden administration, even before it became administration, sent signals to people south of the border that if you come here, we won't deport you. That signal was well received, and that's exactly what's happened. The most recent development has been the reimposition of the Trump-era policy, Remain in Mexico, where people can apply for asylum without having to cross the border. They just have to wait in Mexico. Some conservatives see this as a victory. It's not. This is kind of like when the bouncer cinches off the velvet rope outside of a club because the building has reached max capacity. That's really all this is. It's not even clear that it's actually going to do all that much to reduce illegal immigration. There is an exemption that if you claim to be gay and trans or something like that, if you have a queer gender identity, then you actually get fast-tracked and you don't actually have to wait in Mexico for asylum. How people are going to be held accountable to prove whether or not they're actually gay or trans or whatever, I think we all know what's going to happen with that. It's going to be exploited. But ultimately, this is a debate over whether nations are allowed to be sovereign and decide whether or not they have borders. And the long-term project here, and this is praised or shamed depending on whose mouth it comes out of, but the long-term project here is that if you want to change a polity, if you want to change the political structure of a society, there are a few more effective and irreversible ways than actually changing the character of that country through things like immigration. Now, again, if you read the New York Times, liberals will praise this, the demographic transformation of America, but they'll also criticize it when people like me point it out. So there are people in the United States that call this the kind of celebration parallax. It's good, or I should say, this kind of demographic change isn't happening, and it's good that it is. That's kind of the view of the establishment in the United States.
Now, some would argue and push back and say, well, obviously, if these people are coming and gathering, I guess, through the route through Mexico, they're obviously escaping something. They want to get to America because they see it as this paradise, this place where they can live freely. Usually people immigrate from their country because their country isn't doing well. Politically, it might be communist or dictatorship. Is it wrong for them to want to escape to a better place? And what would be the appropriate path then in your mind?
Setting aside the fact that we've incentivized this through opening up different kind of, let's just say, welfare programs or a culture of welfare and affirmative action to these people that really does create an incentive for them to come here and take advantage of this stuff. What is the limit on this? I mean, why not just empty out the country of Mexico and dump it into the United States? Why not do that with Honduras and Nicaragua? What is the limit here? And moreover, if these countries are actually, as you say, and in some cases this is true, they're developing and there's violence and things like that and corruption, that's never actually going to be fixed. In fact, you're ensuring that these social problems in these countries will never be resolved because you're kind of affecting this perpetual, not just brain drain, but this drain of people. And actually, that is a huge aspect of this
Right.
kind of brain drain. When you specifically try to attract, that's not who's coming, by the way. But the point is that when you take people out of a country that has corruption and things like that,